So a couple of weeks ago, I came across a Lost Media Iceberg post that was on the Lost Media subreddit, which is now deleted for some reason. But this iceberg contains many different lost games, shows, movies, audios, and more. And as you can see, it's a very long list of lost media cases which, funnily enough, can't even fit on the screen without zooming in. Now, this iceberg actually contains over 1,000 lost media pieces which range from well-known lost TV shows to some pretty unknown and creepy cases. Now, before we begin, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the creators of the iceberg who are on the screen now, because I wouldn't have been able to make this video without them. Alright, now let's get right into the video. Among Us 2 was a planned sequel to the popular video game Among Us, which was announced in August 2020. Innersloth ended up confirming its cancellation a little more than a month after the announcement of the project. Unlike the original game, Among Us 2 would have had upgraded features, bigger servers, and a player limit from 12 to 15 players. There also would have been more than 3 imposters, and multiple modes were planned as well. A few weeks after announcing the sequel, the original game ended up exploding in popularity, so the developers decided to keep updating the first game instead, and there's been no word of Among Us 2 since. Metropolis is a 1927 silent German movie by Fritz Lang. The movie is legendary for its quality and striking special effects for its time, and is often considered one of the greatest films ever made. After its Berlin premiere, the film was chopped down from its original 2.5-hour running time to as short as an hour and a half to appeal to an international audience. Many plot-relevant scenes were cut, including several important characters. Due to this, the plot made little sense, and film historians pushed hard to try to figure out the film's many mysteries. In 2008, a highly damaged copy was uncovered in Argentina from a film collector that somehow got a hold of a copy of the original 153-minute cut. The film was badly damaged and transferred onto a safety film. This copy of the film also suffered a loss of quality due to being printed on 16mm positive stock, when movies at the time were normally shot on 35mm film. One of the largest film restoration efforts in history took place to put the scenes back in their original place. In 2010, KinoFilm showed the now 99% complete version of the film to audiences around the world and put it on DVD. There are still 2 missing scenes from the film that were too heavily damaged for the restoration. These scenes are a monk preaching in a chapel and a fight between 2 characters of the movie. This is probably the most complete the film will ever be. There's also a highly rumored 3.5-hour long director's cut of the film which reportedly existed before the Berlin premiere. But these claims have yet to be verified and are more than likely false. Another thing is that there are still scenes and shots of the film that are still incomplete. Even the original title cards are missing. Star Wars 1313 was a planned third-person shooter that was being developed by LucasArts. The game would have been an unusual installment in the Star Wars video game series as it is sought to be a darker and grittier approach to the story. Announced at E3 2012, the game would have players play as bounty hunters as they navigate the level 1313 on Coruscant and plan to be darker in tone when compared to other Star Wars games. The game was first announced on June 1st, 2012, during a segment on the television show Game Trailers TV. While only a short demo was shown, more about Star Wars 1313 was going to be revealed at E3 of that same year. A demo and trailer were both showcased at E3 2012. During E3, it was revealed that Star Wars 1313 was a collaborative effort between LucasArts and Lucasfilm, as motion capture technology was being used during the development of the game, though everything in the trailer was not final and the characters were just test characters. As the advent of the 8th generation of consoles neared, and with games such as The Last of Us hitting store shelves, developers knew they needed to create more immersive and detailed games. With LucasArts having games had mixed and negative reception being released, they knew they needed to try something different to prove that they were capable of competing. On October 30th, 2012, Disney ended up purchasing Lucasfilm. Initially, LucasArts assured fans that the acquisition would not affect the development of the game. Later, it was revealed that Star Wars 1313 was put on hold in 2012. On April 3rd, 2013, Disney announced that they would be shutting down LucasArts and giving the rights to develop any future Star Wars games with EA. As of the recording of this video, no playable demo of Star Wars 1313 has been released. While the game was nowhere near complete, assets have been released by former developers that showcase various levels. From 2012 to 2014, Warner Bros. Released the first 4 seasons of Adventure Time on DVD and Blu-ray to the North American market. A special bonus feature for these releases was the presence of commentaries for select episodes with the cast and crew of the show. However, some commentaries on each season had to be censored, with chunks of dialogue being replaced with ukulele music or a vocal echo effect. Some of the censorship was for content reasons to maintain a TV PG rating on the discs, while other censorship was for legal reasons. The most heavily censored commentary came from Season 2, which received a large number of complaints from older fans of the show. In an attempt to tone down the amount of censorship required in Season 3 and 4's commentary, the cast and crew developed a safe word which was orange juice for when the subject matter got beyond what they were allowed to say. All international DVDs which contain commentary tracks had the same censorship applied. Since Season 4, there have been no commentaries on the home video releases for Adventure Time. It is unknown if the uncensored commentaries for these seasons will ever be released. Superman is an American fictional superhero character often thought to be one of the first of his kind. He remains one of the most recognizable pop culture icons, and established many of the tropes that have become standard within the superhero genre. It is often thought that the character's debut was in 1938 with Action Comics #1. However, Superman had 2 other known appearances before this issue. The first was a depiction of the character as a villain in a short story called The Reign of the Superman, dated for June 1933. This short story, though extremely rare in physical form, is willingly available online. After The Reign of the Superman, Superman's creators started playing with the idea of making the character a hero instead of a villain. The duo worked really hard on this idea, and they even received a promising letter for publication. Eventually, though, the book publishing company pulled out, leaving the creators stressed. After trying again with a few other publishing companies that denied them, they threw the entire issue into a fire out of rage and frustration. It wouldn't be for another 5 years that the hero would finally see its first publication. All that survives of this comic is the cover, where Superman is seen in an entirely different design. Little is known about its plot or what other character designs may have looked like. The creators later described of what little they remembered that this early Superman was a non-alien crime fighter. Superman collectors and historians have contacted multiple sources of whom may hold a copy. It is more than likely, however, that this work is forever lost due to its creators' shame and rage. The Incredible Shrinking Character is a cancelled action-adventure game that was originally meant to be released in 1996 on PC, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn. The plot would have loosely been based on the novel and film The Incredible Shrinking Man in a universe reminiscent of 1950s science fiction and horror movies. The player would have controlled a private investigator looking for Julie Caldwell, who was a wealthy young woman who has vanished after visiting the castle of Dr. Warren. Franklin then creates a shrinking ray that he uses on the hero, shrinking him until he is only a few feet tall. The gameplay would have had the hero venturing into Franklin's castle, growing smaller and smaller after each level, and fighting dragons such as animals and heights, while Julie's screams are heard from afar. The game was announced in magazines with several screenshots and a preview video was shown. However, it was cancelled as the Cyber Dreams company fell apart. Only a development beta demo and an intro have leaked online. No other playable material has ever been made available. After the release of David Work's controversial 1915 film The Birth of a Nation, several attempts were made to capitalize on and respond to its success. One of these came from Thomas Dixon Jr. Released in 1916, Dixon's film was titled The Fall of a Nation, and was adapted from his novel of the same name. The movie, often thought to be the first film sequel ever made, is now considered a lost film. The film was based on the same ideology as Birth of a Nation, which was advocating white supremacy and preparedness for war. However, while Birth was a dramatized version of the real-life events of the Civil War and Reconstruction, this movie instead focuses on a hypothetical future where the United States peacemaking nearly leads to its downfall. The film was split into 3 acts: A Nation Falls, The Heel of the Conqueror, and The Uprising 2 years later. In an effort to link it to the events of The Birth of a Nation, Dixon returned to the same locations present in Birth of a Nation in order to film many of the battle scenes. The soundtrack was composed by Victor Herbert, and is considered to be the first original symphonic score composed for a feature film. Unlike the first movie, The Fall of a Nation was not a commercial or critical success, and was the sole film Dixon Studios produced before collapsing in 1921. As such, it was not widely preserved, and no copies are known to exist. The novel it was adapted from has survived throughout the years. But as for the movie itself, all that exists today are a number of stills and the soundtrack, which is actually held in the possession of the Library of Congress. Treasure Bear was a humorous retro-style puzzle platform game about a bear who teams up with a mimic chest in a quest for gold. Not much is known about the game, other than what was announced on its Kickstarter page. The game was to feature references to pop culture such as a boss called Mary Crate and Ash Lee. The game's Kickstarter campaign started on November 9th, 2013, and ended on January 4th, 2014, unsuccessful to meet its goal. It was set to be a puzzle platformer where players are able to perform various moves to maneuver around your environment, and the player's objective was to collect coins and various other precious materials. The game also features aquatic battles, where players are able to customize and upgrade their ship. However, not much is known about that gameplay mode. There were 2 demo versions released. An extremely early version was posted at Fur Infinity before the launch of the Kickstarter. It featured a small area where players can move and collect coins and a possible battle with Mary Crate and Ash Lee. The second demo was released during the Kickstarter showcase. It was supposedly a later build, but not much is known about it. It was sent to YouTubers to help advertise the game, but the videos promoting the build can't be found anymore. The only thing that exists from the game that we know of is a promo trailer that was on the official Baron Boar channel on YouTube, along with a few songs from the game. Jeffo Pander was a cancelled spin-off of the Brazilian web series Animatoons, created by Felipe Casanhari. Originally, it was going to air on Netflix and was actually cancelled for Felipe's other show, Mystery Lab. Felipe said that the whole pilot was an animatic, but only 1 minute was animated, all by Berto Studios. The voice actor for Jeff was Wendell Bezerra, one of the most famous voice actors in Brazil, and also the owner of Unidub, which was a studio used for the pilot. The full episode had Portuguese voices, but 1 minute was also dubbed in English. Not much is known about the show, but Felipe shared an image of the pilot on his Twitter banner in late 2018. And Igor Fremo also shared a photo of a writing reunion at an Outback Steakhouse on his Twitter. MythBusters is a popular TV program hosted by veteran special effects artists Jamie Hyneman and Adam Savage. They put various modern myths, storytelling tropes, and urban legends to scientific test. Adam and Jamie then use their results to determine if the myths are in reality plausible or busted. Over more than a decade, this has resulted in some startling and surprising television, but only in one case was it so startling that the footage never made it onto air. In the 2006 MythBusters episode, Steam Cannon, the resulting segment as aired features Adam and Jamie exploring various means of determining the nutritional content of cardboard. While mostly unremarkable, it comes across as a bit vague and disorganized in comparison to the show's usual careful planned investigations. In a Q&A some years later, Adam explained that this was because the original plan for testing this myth had gone so horrifically bad that it was unusable. According to his account, the experiment involved lab mice placed in 3 groups, one eating normal mouse food, another eating sugary cereal, and the last eating cardboard box pellets. After several days of filming, they had noticed on the Friday afternoon that the cardboard-eating mice were acting strange. On resuming to the following Monday morning, they discovered that one of the cardboard mice had eaten the other 2 mice in its cage. All that remained of each victim was, in Adam words, a head and a tail and nothing but a ribcage in between. The show's producers of the Discovery Channel refused to allow the tragedy to be part of the episode, spawning the quick search for alternative test methods that eventually made it to air. Adam and Jamie, on the other hand, found the whole thing gruesomely hilarious and apparently initially tried to play it off as such on camera, holding up the cannibal mouse and joking along the lines of, "When mice attack." Adam had made a rough cut of this footage by the time the decision was taken to pull it, and in the Q&A he admits to showing it at Northern Michigan Tech. When Discovery found out, however, they banned him from showing it ever again. MythBusters ceased first-run production as of 2016, and despite his claims that the producers insisted he destroy it, it's plausible that Adam may still have a personal copy of the footage, but due to the graphic animal violence, it remains very unlikely it will ever resurface publicly. The Discovery Channel has always done their best to keep a family-friendly image and strictly avoid any hint of animal harm. The Dream Woman was a film directed by Alice Guy and written by Wilkie Collins. It starred Franny Fronaholes as Frances Raven and Claire Whitney as Alice Warlock. The hero is haunted by a dream of a young woman trying to stab him with a knife. Every birthday that passes, the dreams become more lifelike. When he leaves his home, he gets lost and has to take a night at a hotel. When he wakes up from his dream, he finds the Dream Woman standing over him with a knife. His panic wakes the hotel manager, who comes upstairs to find no intruder and removes him for the disturbance. The ghost then appears again, causing him to run until he collapses in his mother's arms. Soon after, he grows fascinated with a young woman named Alice Warlock and later marries her. However, Alice is often drunk, and after a fight she vows to kill him with the knife in his dreams. Frances attempts to dispose of it, but is attacked and loses the knife. A few years go by and Frances is employed as a second groom. Although during the celebrations, Alice finds him, recognizes him, and kills him with the knife. Finally, the film ends in the spirit world. The assumed plot seems to have been taken from the novel it was based on. No footage from the film has surfaced online, and only 14 photos of the film appear to exist. Crazy Frog Collectible Faces is a 2008 Nintendo DS puzzle game developed by Crypon Studio starring Crazy Frog, who is a CGI animated character known from music videos featuring him from the mid-2000s. It was allegedly published by the now-defunct Mercury Games, who were the publishers of several other Crazy Frog titles, including one named Crazy Frog Collectibles Art School, meaning that Collectibles Faces was a sequel. A short description of the game is available on the Archive Cypron Studios website, which calls it a funny puzzle game for the Nintendo DS which supports single-card multiplayer. Nothing else about the gameplay is known. A possible description describes a matching game, where one selects a face and has to select all the matching ones, similar to the Wanted minigame from Super Mario 64. Besides the mention on the Archive Cypron Studios website, little info on the game remains online. It is unknown whether the Mercury Games website contained anything about the game, as it's no longer available and the only archive is from 2007, a year before the game was even set to release. 2 Spanish forum posts have been found claiming that Crazy Frog Collectibles Faces would be released for €19 by Koch Media in 2008, which might have been the game's publisher in Spain. A few French websites also mention the game, but with no concrete new information. It's still uncertain whether the game was released in any form, judging by the fact that the game was listed under finished games on Cypron Studios' website, and that it was fully rated by PEGI. Most people would think it's highly likely that the game was in fact released. On May 27, 2019, a Lost Media Wiki forum user SpongeBob678 tried starting a search on the game by contacting a Cypronian developer via email. The developer replied with a vague message telling that Mercury Games went bankrupt in 2008 and the Cypron Studios developers were not paid, implying that the game was cancelled, along with another related game published by Mercury Games named Jamstar All-Stars. No further updates came from the forum user. Taiwan 2001 is a game created by Kusosoft in Taiwan as a spoof of the 1995 shooter game Hong Kong 97, in which the game has received a cult following in Japan and Taiwan because of the game's difficulty, poor grammar, graphic content, and reputation as one of the worst video games ever created. The name of the company, Kusosoft, is most likely a made-up company as a parody of Happysoft, who is the company who distributed Hong Kong 97. The gameplay of Taiwan 2001 is very similar to Hong Kong 97. However, Kusosoft claims that it is intended to be worse than that of the original game. According to the story and the website, the game takes place in the year 2001 in Taiwan, in which citizens of mainland China are invading and bringing crime and chaos. Most of the backgrounds and graphical assets in the game were apparently taken from photocopies of Taiwanese textbooks. One of the backgrounds during gameplay features the face of the founder and first president of the Republic of China on a $100 new Taiwan dollar banknote. Little is known about the game's actual gameplay aside from what is shown in the screenshots, other than it's similar to the gameplay of Hong Kong 97, in which you control a character named Wang Shu Min and throw projectiles at enemies such as people from mainland China and passing motorcycles while dodging them. It's possible that after defeating a certain number of enemies, the head of Wang Shu En appears, and after defeating it, a new wave of enemies come again and the game repeats. Additionally, the game also had an exploding bomb command, although it isn't known what exactly it does. There are also numbers in red that appear in addition to strings of text in Chinese on the screen during gameplay, but it is unknown what those numbers represent, although it could possibly be a score or hit counter. The only evidence of the game's existence is mentions and reviews of the game from an interview between the designer of Hong Kong 97 on Six Cinema and on personal blogs, as well as a screenshot of the title screen and gameplay. However, downloads and archives for this game have not been made available. Unlike Hong Kong 97, which was sold as a physical unlicensed game for the Super Famicom with a backup device on floppy disk, this game was made available as a digital download for PC and is freeware, meaning the game can be obtained for free with no monetary cost and can be installed and run natively on a computer. Although screenshots of the game exist, a download link from the official site appears to be broken, and the Wayback Machine is also unable to download it. Go For It is a lost game show pilot that was taped at Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida sometime in the early 1990s. It is unknown why it is not greenlit by Nickelodeon. There is currently no video footage of the pilot that exists, and the only evidence of the pilot's existence is a picture of the set on the website of the production designer of the pilot. According to the website, the game showed children contestants playing on an overscaled game board, with the kids being the play pieces with intellectual and physical games being played as well. The website also mentions that the pilot was a forerunner to Guts, which could mean that the pilot was not greenlit in favor of Guts. Satan's Sphinx is an unexplained urban legend video that surfaced on the internet in 2009. The video actually ended up getting banned by the US government due to its satanic messages and rituals that can lead to one's suicide. It started from a question made on Yahoo Answers by an anonymous person around May 2009. Another user on Yahoo named David G told the person to stop trying to find the movie because there is a reason why the movie was banned. According to a post on 4chan, the urban legend says that Satan's Sphinx is a 3-minute and 49-second video that contains a high-pitched audio track that will irritate the viewer. Impossible images of gore continuously run over the screen and rotate very fast so that people wouldn't figure out or identify any of the gruesome photos. Whispering can also be heard in the background as well, while the screen begins to flash. At this point, people get dizzy but won't try to turn the movie off. At the end of the video, it is said that the clip will cause the viewer to become depressed and sleepless. After the experiment, the film was banned by the US government with all traces removed from the internet. But, according to a video by Scare Theater, he got an email on February saying that some 31-year-old male and his friends were the creator of it all. He said that Satan's Sphinx was fake himself, since he used a still image from his favorite band, Hellhorse by Decades of Dust. The closest thing he got to the original was that one of his friends and him used a SpongeBob or a Peppa Pig episode and added a red overlay onto it to make it look spooky, followed by a mashup of 3 songs in reverse. However, he claimed that the original version of the story was the CIA creating a brainwash video that led to one or more people's depression, mass murder, then suicide. He explained it first started when he and his friends were at a restaurant near DC and someone overheard them talking about the fake creepypasta to a friend who didn't know what Satan's Sphinx was. He wanted to know what Sphinx was, and he replied that it was a banned film made in Argentina, and he showed him the still frame of the quote-unquote footage. He got scared at this point and wanted to know more. The creator and one of his friends left at this point because they didn't really expect this as a joke. He concludes that he was debunking this myth himself because he is sick and tired of hearing about it, bored of being asked about it, and he doesn't think that his creation of an urban legend was so good at all. In 2009, an amateur video artist studying in the UK uploaded a video on YouTube of a recent piece he had completed. After many reports and complaints, the video was taken down. The piece allegedly begins with a shot of a foggy meadow that some believe to be located in Ireland. The only sound throughout this shot is a light hissing and what sounds like muffled, slurred speech. The camera starts zooming in on a white shape in the field. After several tedious minutes, the shape reveals itself to be an albino deer. A close-up shot of its eyes suddenly appears, showing signs of infection and possibly the beginning stages of blindness. The following shot is a scene of the deer staring at a mirror for about a minute. The piece takes a turn for the bizarre, with the deer in the reflection moving in dissonance with the real one. Zooming in, the camera focuses on the deer in the reflection, which has begun to move in an unnatural and deformed fashion as if something was molding it like a piece of clay. The camera then zooms out, showing a shot of the real deer laying on the ground. People have described the deer as looking strangely at peace. The shot goes on for roughly 2 minutes. The reflection is still twisting, but the mirror itself seems to be growing darker. The deer lying on the ground then starts to excrete a dark fluid from under its tail, suggesting that a birth is about to occur. The tar-like substance continues to bubble and seep out the deer and onto the ground. This is the point where many people claim to have stopped watching it. Some accounts vary on what happens next, but many describe a scene where a humanoid infant is birthed from the deer covered in the dark tar-like sludge that makes it hard to describe exactly what it looks like. Some have claimed it was a model of a human-animal hybrid put together by the artist for the sake of this film. A blurry close-up shot of the hybrid's face is seen for a few seconds before it cuts back to the mirror, which is now broken, within the same field from the beginning. Black and white stock footage of an audience applauding is shown in slow motion. And then the film ends with a 5-minute shot of a black screen with unintelligible murmuring slowly fading in volume. Many say that the film can no longer be found online, while others say that the audio track is sometimes circulated around file-sharing programs like BitTorrent. There are even some people who claim to have attained the film itself through BitTorrent as well. Occasionally, screenshots surfaced on the image boards and other such sites, but the film itself has hardly been seen since its initial debut. A year later, the artist posted another video on YouTube. This time, it was just 5 minutes of a black screen and silence with just a link of a webcam site in the description to serve as evidence. Viewers described seeing a pair of dangling pale feet slightly rotating above a knocked-over chair. This mysterious and creepy video is still lost to this day, and all that exists is a couple of screenshots and some supposed real audio from the video. Alright, that's going to be it for the video. Now I might actually go deeper into this iceberg and actually make this a series on my channel because there's a lot to discover here and I enjoy talking about it. If you guys would like to see that, let me know in the comments below and subscribe if you liked the video as well. Thanks and goodbye.